Thank you. Good evening, everyone. About genetics, I will make an attempt to answer what the lady was just now asking about the Buddhist perspective on genetic engineering. And you mentioned about cloning. Well, when Dolly the sheep was cloned, it became a reality that cloning is possible. And I think in Korea, they was trying to clone human as well. Basically, I think in cloning is you have a donor contributing a tissue that carries the DNA, yes, and the offspring basically is a duplicate of the donor. Whereas in a natural procreation, you have the offspring carrying the DNA of both parents. Well, but if you look at the natural world, twins also have similar DNA. So what is so unethical about twins? They are clones actually. Nobody makes an issue. But from the Buddhist perspective, unlike Christianity, the problem with cloning is humans are playing God. Creation of human is God's work. Mm-hmm. So that's why the Christians are against it. Sure. Buddhist doesn't believe in creation or creator God. So I don't think there is an issue with Buddhists on cloning. But I don't think it's possible to clone karma, because then everybody will have the same karma. And if it's also possible to clone human, then we might as well clone Buddha. So what I'm trying to say is that, well, it is a complex issue, yeah, true. But what the West is trying to stop is associated with genetic engineering is stem cell research. Yes. Yeah, I think they are trying to pull the plug on that, and it's got the, well, life implication.
Sure it does.
Yeah. As for aging issue, I think it has been around since beginning of time, or if you say since man, has lived. But the only thing is because they are more aged because they are living longer because of life expectancy has increased. I mean, in older times, they die at 30, 40, 50, so that's not an issue because they die faster than, and they got more reproduction. Now it's the other way around. The old they are living longer, and the reproduction rate is not replacing at the same level. True. So, but I don't know how Buddhist is going to solve this, because are you saying that informed Buddhists will be more more filial, and they will, and one Buddhist child will look after two aged Buddhist parents? Would it? I don't think it will solve anything, because this is not a religious issue.
Whether or not it's a religious issue may be debatable in terms of compassion and all of those issues. Thank you for your comments. I have no real objection to any of it, because I think it is the case that when you have theological issues which determine your science, then you have to recognize that's what you're doing. And the theological issue determining your science may not be the best thing for science in terms of the way in which it advances. And that's been true throughout history. And with aging, it is a case that we've always had the aged with us. One of the great messengers is old age. Sickness, old age, and death are the three great messengers that come to us all. So we've had it, it's always been there, but never to the degree that we see it coming at us. Nothing comparable in human history, where you see the number of aged people compared to the general population. As you say, because science keeps us alive, and here I am, still alive, and I should have been dead. It's 55, but I'm still around. So I feel some obligation that I'm part of the problem. There I am. So in terms of how Buddhists or others can handle these issues, what I have tried to say is that if we look at what the Buddhists are trying to teach, they say, if you try to find out what is the case, you got several things going. First of all, let's say you have something like a tsunami. Of course, you must go in and immediately recognize what the problem is and start helping people right then and there. And I think that that's something which the Buddhists have always said. When a person's shot by an arrow, you don't sit down and decide who made the arrow and what was it made from and where were they trained. You say, you got to pull that thing out. If you want to talk about where it was made, you do that later, but you can post-process. But you got to be immediate. You have to be able to say, what is the case is, this person is really hurt, let's help him. And I think that this is something which Buddhism can teach people, that meditation and focus and concentration allows us to know what is the case right this moment. And that's really hard to hold on to sometimes. It's like my situation this afternoon. I look for my PowerPoint and it is not there. What do? Eventually, I have to say, what is the case? And I had to say to myself, it's gone. And I have to accept that and then decide what to do from that point forward. It's that ability to see things as they really are that is the starting point to the solution. As long as I try to lay blame, I never reach a solution. And that's why if you try to first lay blame, you're a long way from beginning to move toward actually doing something about it. Because if you say, why did this happen to me? If somebody runs into my car, why me? Or if I go out in the parking lot and it's got a flat tire, and it's like, why me? Who's to blame for this? Who did this? Doesn't help me. I have to say, I have a flat tire. That's what is the case. What do I do about it? That's the next step. So the world is like that for us. And we are faced with certain things that are real. And what's real for us in the world is growing population, growing aging. What's real for us is people, more and more people are in situations with lack of resources. These are just where we are. Like it or not, that's where we are. So as a Buddhist, we have to say, that's what is. It's like one of the former cabinet members in the U.S. made a statement, and he said, nobody is entitled to stand aside anymore. Nobody is entitled to say, I don't have to worry about that. We can do that, but it has no excuse which will stand up in court. We don't have that entitlement. So as Buddhists, number one is to say, what's going on right now at least? Let's just really focus in on what's going on. Let's keep that focus and say, this is happening. It's like genetics. Like it or not, here's where we are. We can clone creatures. That's where we are. We start from that. We don't say, who did that? Why did they let this happen? Where was the government? Why didn't it stop this? How could we get to this terrible state of affairs? How is it we got so many old people? Why is it that we've got no, And I do that sometimes. I do it, and I rant and rave about things. Does no good. Why doesn't it do good? The Buddha said it doesn't do any good because you're not talking about things as they really are, which is, what is it? Like it or not, whether it's like with my PowerPoint, I just did not want to hear that. I didn't want to lose it. but that was the reality. Until you face the reality, you can't move on. So we've got a lot of problems in the world, and as I said to her, we've got a lot of ethics to develop. We need very careful thinking about these issues. And I think that it's groups like this that need to really start discussing it, and your discussions you should put out there. Let everybody see what you're saying. What are the implications for the Buddhist leadership as well? Because in a sense, you are potential leaders, because you are informed. You've been doing this for 30 years. Some of you have been in this room for decades, working and listening and talking about this. Now's the time to begin to say, well, what have I learned? What can I inform others about, and feel very good about informing them what I know, because many of you know a lot.